This is the Eastern Echo podcast, and I'm your host, Aminah Yesuf. I will be talking with.
Hi, my name's Uzi.
Nice to meet you, Rizzi. Today we're gonna be talking about mental health and how it affects us as college students. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Uzi. I'm an Eastern student and I'm also a mental health advocate.
Okay. What would you like us to know today?
I have been coming to the school for the last 2 years, and I think the biggest thing in college is mental health because a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't like to ask for help, and I think that's the biggest thing for me because looking back at my journey, when I started college, I was in a really bad place mentally, and I think coming here, I thought I would get better, and it didn't. But I think having the right resources really helps to understand where you're with school, asking professors for help, going to EMU CAPS, or having an off-site therapist could really help college students these days.
Thank you. One of the things I noticed is some people accept that they have a problem, but they feel like they're gonna be a burden on themselves, on their friends. What do you think about that?
I think I used to be like that, and sometimes I still do. I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help because it's something I think everyone needs a support system, and if you don't have a good support system, you're not gonna get better. You're gonna actually get worse because if you don't have positive role models in your life or positive people, then it's really hard to see the positive things of life instead of the negative. And I feel like people not asking for help or the things I used to do when I was struggling, I would pull out my text and I would try to text a friend about it, and I would text it all out, and then I would delete it and not talk about it, and I would sit there and bawl my eyes out because I didn't want to ask for help because I didn't know who to turn to at that time.
I mean, I can relate with that. I am the go-to person for all my friends, but I do not know how to seek for help. I feel like if I decide to ask them for help, it would seem like a burden on them. But in recent time, I've also noticed that asking other people for help is also a sign of strength, as opposed to being a weakness.
I honestly totally agree with that because I've reached out for help and I've gotten the help I needed, and I think that's the biggest thing within colleges, with professors, with therapists, psychologists, friends, parents, family, whatever not. I think asking for help is a really big thing, saying, hey, I have a problem and I need to fix it before it gets worse.
Exactly. Recently I had some issues with classes, and I didn't know who to talk to. And I was lucky enough to have a mentor within the department, and she asked me to reach out to the head of department, and since then I've been getting all the necessary resources and help that I could get within the department. So asking for help is not a terrible thing to do, and especially for men. We found out that a lot of men decide not to seek for help. And as we talk about it, I wish there was a man on this panel that could tell us, why they don't want to seek for help. Why do you think men don't like to ask for help?
I think men don't like to ask for help because society has put it in however long society's been here that if they ask for help, they're weak, or they're supposed to act like they're strong all the time supposedly, and I think that's very not okay with society because we shouldn't match up to society's standard. Society should accept who we are as people, and with men especially, they should be able to ask for help. I don't know how many times I've had guys come to me and ask for help, which I'm super grateful for that. And I think even being an athlete in college, being a male athlete, I think that's also a lot of pressure to handle on your own. And I think the athletes that did ask for help for the team that I work for, which is super strong, I really appreciate them asking for help and acknowledging, because a lot of men don't. So I feel like the more guys that ask for help, it'll show other guys who are scared to ask for help that it's okay, seeing other guys do it as a role model.
Thank you for that. Coming from what you said, especially male athletes not asking for help, do we think it's because the world of sports decide that when somebody decides to ask for help, they are super weak? Or does that diminish their accomplishment as athletes?
I don't think it diminishes that. I think it makes them stronger by asking for help, because I was talking to a guy named Hyderi, I forgot how to say his name, but he's a NCAA swimmer, and I talked to him recently, and he actually admitted to when he was going through a dark time on the NCAA podium. And I think watching that video and talking to him, it just shows that, like, if you ask for help, you can go far in your life. You don't need to supposedly hide everything, because if you aren't asking for help, you're not going to see the outcomes of your positive life. You're not going to see the outcomes of being an athlete, or the outcomes of the win, or outcomes of what you want to see. Just like Michael Phelps, he also was a world-class athlete, as everyone knows, and he dove into a really dark spot, and now he's still a father, a mental health advocate, a teacher for swimming. So I think that's kind of to show you two male role models who made it. I have a friend, Matthew Sorby, who's on the South Dakota swimming team. He has actually been in eating disorder recovery, and he still swims. And I think listening to his podcast and talking to him personally one-on-one, talking to them one-on-one, I think that kind of opened up. Having male role models can really help you. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Speaking of which, this today is International Women's Day. Do you think that there's enough support for women that go ask for help?
I think that sometimes is and sometimes isn't, because we still have women taking their lives. We're still having women self-sabotage. We're still having women having eating disorders. And I think that really just shows you we need more support, because sometimes girls need to have female role models or female teachers, professors, whatever, not parents, to help have those conversations. Because if those people are in a society that I was in, being from overseas and having family from overseas, you're taught from day one, you don't show emotion, you don't talk about it, you cover it all deep inside, and when someone asks you how you're doing, you say, I'm good, instead of saying, I'm not doing so well. So coming from an atmosphere of that type, I think for like 17, 18 years, I never talked about it. I think after I was 18, almost turning 19, my life exploded before my eyes. And I think that's kind of like the why I hate society overseas so much, because the stigma is so bad that, like, you can't talk about it, and it stinks and it hurts. But it's also like when you move somewhere else, and when you're living somewhere else, but you also go to visit overseas, you kind of see the difference. And I think I saw the difference, and I'm kind of like, something's not right. Something in my head clicked, told me it wasn't right, and I started advocating.
Okay. Speaking of overseas, I'm happy that we're both like international students and we could actually talk about things like this. Yeah, like you said, everybody talks about how everybody knows that things are bad, but when you ask, everybody goes, "Oh, I'm doing okay," and you're clearly not doing okay. It's very obvious when they see you that you're not doing okay, but you go out and you say, "Oh, I'm doing very well. Everything is fine." Why do you think that when anybody asks us how we feel, like the first answer to go is, "Oh, I'm okay"?
I think we've learned that from society, or like from our family, or from our extended family, other people that we've seen. If they say we're okay, we're also like supposed to say we're okay. And I feel like having different answers, people are like surprised by having the different answers, because I know sometimes I still lie about it, and I'm still learning to not lie about these issues. I think depending on the people you trust, it's kind of also trust issues, sort of, because if, like, you say, oh yeah, I'm doing okay, because you don't know that person, or you don't know them well enough to talk about it, you go to the people that you trust, or you don't talk about it at all, and that could be a problem at sometimes.
Thank you. When you talk a lot about society, but we make up the society. So why is it so difficult for or people to come out and say, "Oh, this is what's going on"?
It sometimes takes a lot of time to talk about it, because it's not like you're not talking about it. It's when you're ready, you're physically and mentally ready to talk about it, and you're ready to face the issues. Because for a long time, I wasn't ready to face my own issues. I was like, yep, everything's cool, everything's dandy. And I think looking at where I came from, it kind of just reminded me that, like, I can talk about my stuff, and I have my issues, and my family's okay with me getting help. And, like, I just didn't want to do it because I thought I was going to be weak, or like I was going to look stupid if I asked for help. And I think that's another thing. Asking for help is like the biggest thing for college students too, because we are trained to go to class, come home, do homework, go to sleep, wake up, go to class, come home, do homework, repeat. It's a repeat cycle, so you don't have a break. And one thing my therapist and I learned on social media was, if you don't take a break for your body will take one for you, and it won't be at the time that you want it, and it will happen when you don't expect it the most. And I think I've learned that a couple of times, that your body will take a break for you if you do not take one.
Yes.
And I think I recently learned that because I've gotten sick before because of how stressed I've been. And I would just like work myself to death, advocating, going to school, helping people, going to work, talking to family, doing this, doing that. And I think my body just like, enough. We're tired. We need a break. So I think that's the biggest thing with college students.
Okay. So one thing we've learned today is seek for help. There are plenty of resources on campus that you could seek for, where you could go to seek for help. Your advisor is one of the first places you could go to. Then you could go to your department, and then the EMU CAPS is available for psychosocial help. And if you need referral, they could actually refer you out to other psychological services around. What else would you like someone to know about?
I think asking for help is one of the biggest steps, and it's one of the first steps into recovery. I've been in recovery for about 2 years, even though I've been getting help since 4th grade, and I'm in college. I still get help, surprise. But I think getting help, finding the right therapist, finding the right psychologist, finding the right teachers, finding the right resources takes a bit of time, because it took me, 4 or 5, almost 10 years to find the right therapist, right psychiatrist, right friends, right family members. Because it took me time to open up and like trust those people, be like, they actually are on my side and they're not against me, they're for me. And to ask for help when I need it, because I need it and I shouldn't be embarrassed to ask about it. I feel stupid for asking.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. One thing to note is there is no health without mental health.
That is so true, because people think physical and mental health are the same thing when they're two separate things. They go together, but they're two separate things. Your physical health is one thing, your mental health is one thing. So I truly believe that.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening to the Eastern Echo podcast. We'll be back with more